Year 5, I'm back again. I think you missed my voice so much that I decided to do another maths video. This time it's fractions, but decimals as fractions, okay? So don't panic that we have gone backwards and we're going back to fractions. This is turning decimals into fractions. So this week on most of my videos, I've said to you to always have your place value chart ready and raring to go. Remember, this is your decimal point. Anything left of the decimal point are whole numbers. So you've got ones, tens, hundreds. Anything right of the decimal point is part of a whole. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. So we're going to identify these in our tenths, sorry. Hundredths. Remember, they're hundredths. They're not tens, they're tenths, hundredths instead of hundreds. I'm going to write in my number. And today, my number I'm going to use is 3.28. Now, we never say 328, or we never say 328. It's always 3, and then we point to 8. It's never 328, okay, because it's not 28 of something. It's part of a whole, which is 2/10 and 8 hundredths. Now, I could use counters to represent this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and if I'm breaking it down, so I'm doing the expanded part of identifying this number, I could have a look at its makeup and what that means. And then we can work this out together. And this is why it's always good to have your grid up the top, your place value grid. So let's have a look. Something ones. My ones, I've got 3. 1, 2, 3. Tenths, 2/10, and 8 hundredths. So I didn't even get you to guess that one. I even wrote it there. So 3 ones, 2/10, and 8 hundredths. Now, when I'm thinking then about this number and how much the value of each of these digits are, remember, anything left of the decimal point is a whole. So I'm writing this as a mixed number. So 3 is my whole, and then I need to do something here. Now, an easy way then is to go back to your representation that you had up here and have a look at what columns you are using. Now, I wouldn't say 3 and 2/10 and 8 hundredths. I would go to the furthest one that I am using, and I'm using hundredths. So I know that I am using 100 square because I need to put 28 parts in that 100. Now, another way of looking at that is putting the 100 underneath, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, that I'm not now working in hundredths, I'm working in hundreds. It changes a little bit when we move from decimals to fractions. Now, having a think about what we already know about a place value grid, I'm just going to do something to show you what I mean. So, if I had my place value grid, and these were ones, and these were tens, and our decimal points over here, so we've gone into whole numbers now, and I had a 2 and an 8, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'd have 2 tens. Now, what can we do to these 2 tens to put them in here? What are they? What are they made up of? So I wouldn't just then add 2 here. What are these 2 made up of? You're right, they are tens. So we could use our deans for this in our classroom, which are the purple sticks that have 10 on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, who knew that I was going to do that? 10. And let's just say that that's got 10 in it as well. If I exchanged these 2 here I wouldn't have 2 anymore. What would I have in here? I'd have 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I would have 20 ones or 2 tens. So altogether, I would have 28 ones. Now that then comes back to something very similar when we're working the other way to the decimal point. I have 2 tenths and 8 hundredths, or if I converted these over here, it works exactly the same. I would then have 28 hundredths, which means down here I would have 3 whole and 28 hundredths. So let's do another one together, see if we can identify how we break these down, and then we'll break them down a little bit further. So I'm going to do my grid again, my decimal point. You might think that doing this each time is really laborious, but it does work out in the end, because you don't then have to always have this, because you will have it in your head, as you will have visualised this along the way, and then eventually it sinks in and it's all up there. So this time I'm going to do 2.34, and I'm going to use my little visual counters to do that one. And let's have a think about breaking it down. So I've got so many ones, I've got 3 something, and then I have something hundredths. So let's try that all together. How many ones do I have? This is my column. I've got 1, 2. Remember, these are our wholes, and then I've got my part here. I've got 3 of something, 3 tenths, well done. And then I have something hundredths, 4, brilliant. So let's think about converting that into a mixed number. How many wholes do I have? I have 2 wholes. And then let's have a think again. I'm working not in just tens and hundreds when I'm thinking about my fractions. This is where I go back to my place value grid and look at tenths and hundredths, and I think about converting that into a fraction. So I'm working as far as this column here, which means I can look at 100 square. Now, I haven't got 3 tenths and 4 hundredths. I need to make this all 1. So remember, I can then exchange these over to here, which would be my 3 sticks of 10, and my 3 sticks of 10 then become 30. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to do all of those together. So together we then have 34 hundredths, 2 34 hundredths. So I'm going to do something another way now to see how it splits down even more. So now we have put 2.34 at the top of our page and 2 and 34 hundredths, but I want to break this down even more so I can help you identify it as an expanded form. 2 and 34 hundredths equals 2 plus something plus something. Now you can see that these have both got vinculums here, which I know then that they are both fractions, because this is my vinculum with my numerator at the top and my denominator down the bottom. My numerator and my denominator. So I've done my 2, because I've got my 2 here, so I can tick that off. I've done that part. But I need to partition the 34 hundredths. Now this is when this comes back into play, because I'm thinking about these as separate entities now, not combined like we just had. I want to think them as separate. So how do you think I could separate these in terms of fractions? How would I make these both into fractions? With my vinculum here, I need my whole and my whole, and then my parts. If I put a 10 here, what do you think this one could become? Brilliant. These are your hundreds. So what do you think could become up here? How many do I have in this column, which is my tenths or my tens if I'm turning it into a fraction? Brilliant. And then what is it in here? 4. So I have expanded my fraction here. So now it becomes 2 and 3/10 and 4 100ths. Don't get mistaken by putting 3/10 and 34 100ths again, because you've used that 3 for here, so it's only the 4 left. So if you do need to tick off or you need to cross out as you move to this expanded method, it will help you. Give it a go and then let me know via Seesaw how you get on.